so much. Ms. Espinel, I want to come to you first because I know that the EU is looking at implementing their AI Act later this year. I was recently over there and working on the privacy issue and holding some meetings, and I think they're a little bit frustrated that we haven't moved forward on some of these guidelines and governance that would help our innovators here in the country. So talk for just a minute about how your members would navigate a patchwork system around the globe when it comes to AI and the guardrails that are going to be put around it.
Thank you very much. So let me start off by thanking you. When you were in Brussels, you had an opportunity to visit us at BSA and visit many of our member companies. You led a fantastic roundtable there, so thank you very much for that. But also thank you for that question, because I think that is a very important issue. So as you said, the EU is moving forward with legislation. They are not the only country that is moving forward with legislation. Governments around the world are moving forward with legislation as well. And I think one of the challenges, but an avoidable challenge, is if we end up in a situation where there is, as you said, an inconsistent patchwork of regulations around the world. I think because there is so much policymaker focus around the world on artificial intelligence, as you said, in part because of the launch of ChatGPT, there's a real opportunity right now to move towards a harmonized approach globally. And that may not include every country in the world, but I think it could include a lot. And I think if the United States, I think the United States has a very important role to play there in terms of moving a large number of countries to a harmonized approach.
To set standards and lead this?
In my opinion, yes.
Okay.
The United States is a leader in innovation. We should be a leader here as well.
Absolutely. Mr. Strayer, when you're working with your members, national data privacy law, how do they put importance on that before we move forward with some of these other components dealing with AI?
We believe a comprehensive national privacy law is absolutely critical, and that ensures a lot of the issues that will come about data training sets and other data that emerges from AI systems that are used by businesses every day. So we very much support that, acting quickly. We don't think those need to be done. That needs to be done first before moving on AI regulation, but we think both have to be done. The thing I'd say about standards is US-based companies and Western companies generally are leading in developing standards through the International Standards Organization. They're working now on an AI management system standard. Those will be hopefully the bedrock for when the EU finishes their legislation, the standards that should apply globally, but that's not yet been fully resolved with the European Union. But those standards should be the harmonized global standards for the future.
Yeah. Mr. Gregory, do you have anything that you want to add on that?
I would note that one of the areas that the EU is focused on is labeling and disclosure of AI-based content. I think there's a real opportunity for the US to lead on this, to come up with a standardized way that respects privacy, that presents information that's useful to consumers, and to set a standard there that is applicable as well.
Yeah, Dr. Krishnan?
I think the NIST AI RMF offers an opportunity here through what's called NIST AI RMF profiles. And through the use of these profiles, I think we could, with the appropriate standard setting for high-risk applications, both on the data input side, the data transparency side, as well as with model validation, we can actually come up with standards that then get adopted because there's considerable support for AI RMF, both here at home and abroad.
Okay. Ms. Espinel, let me come back to you. I've got just a little bit of time left. I'd like for you to just briefly talk about how your companies have worked to have policies that are transparent, that are interpretable, that are explainable when you're dealing with AI. And Mr. Strayer, I'll come to you for the follow-on that.
So it's very important that we have a system that builds trust in AI, and transparency is clearly part of what is important in order to build trust. Let me give you just a few examples of ways that there could be transparency. One is to let consumers know if they are interacting with an AI service, such as a chatbot. Another example would be to let consumers know if the image that they are seeing has been generated by artificial intelligence. There's important work that's being done by other witnesses at this table in terms of content authenticity and letting consumers know if images have been altered or manipulated in some ways. Those are just 3 examples. But I want to end by saying, in addition to transparency practices, I do think it is very important that we have regulation, and that we have regulation that requires in high-risk uses for companies that are developing or using AI to be doing impact assessments to try to mitigate those risks.
Okay. Mr. Strayer?
I would just add that companies are also setting up fact sheets, or what they call model cards, that explain the features and limitations, to talk about where the data sets came from, the intended uses. So these are pretty fulsome explanations. It's important in the area of transparency to think about who the intended audience is and for what purpose. So is it a consumer? Is it businesses along the chain? Is it for a deployer? So one should think about all those when they think about what requirements should be set in this area.
Thank you.